Hi guys, Chad Troffgruben here. Welcome back to the Anime Studio tutorial series. In this lesson, we will be looking at how to draw out our cartoon characters for the animation. In the last lesson, we looked at how to outline and create a screenplay for our cartoon. So now we'll be taking the character Steve, which was in my screenplay, and drawing him out. As you can see on the screen, I have a character already drawn, and this might look familiar to you if you've seen any of the promo videos I have done for the series. We'll be using this as a template today when we draw out our character. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to draw the character to look exactly like this. I'll be drawing the character to look similar to this, but if you want to, and I encourage you to, please create a character that is more suited to your tastes. Take the lessons I am showing you here and apply them and be creative with it and create a character that is custom tailored to your skills. It'll be more fun that way and you'll have a stronger connection to the project as a whole. So with that said, let's get started. You'll notice I have a bunch of different layers that make up this character. So by the time we are done here, we will have many layers working together to create this character. So please open up a new document and we shall begin. The first thing we'll want to do is draw the head. So let's come over here to the layer panel and double click on layer 1 and rename this head and then click OK. Now, I will be using the Add Point tool to create the head, as well as pretty much every other object and character part I will be drawing in this entire series. So we'll use the Add Point tool, and we will adjust the width at the far right here to about 4, and the stroke can be black. And for the fill color, we're going to want something that resembles your desired skin tone. So you can come in here and choose any type of skin color you wish. I'll be mimicking the character I made for the template, so I'll choose something a little bit lighter like this and click OK. Now, make sure that your sharp corners option is deselected. Autofill and auto weld can be selected if you wish. Now, starting up near the top, I will just click and drag down like this and down like this. Then for the chin, as you can tell, I like drawing big chins. It's something of a kind of a trait of mine, I would guess you could say. I'll come down here, make sure that's lined up, and draw something out like this. Then we'll come back and go up like this. Now, as you're clicking and dragging all of your points, as I am on my screen, you're going to want to come to a point where you're going to want to end the shape. In order to do that, you simply click and drag this point, your final point, onto the first point of your object. And you'll notice that it appears green once I do this, and once I release, you'll probably hear a click sound if your audio is on, and it will complete the object. You'll now have your lines. If you have the autofill selected, it will fill it in for you, and all of that good stuff. So now, we have just created our head. Once you have finished drawing something, you can easily modify the points that you have placed down. To do this, you can come over here to your Translate Points tool and click and drag any of the points that you have currently placed down. So I could come up here and just move this a little bit, move this like that, and basically just adjust it however you wish. I'm just kind of do a couple of quick adjustments here just to make it a little bit more desirable. And another thing we can do too, if need be, we can place more points down. We can come back here to the Add Point tool, click that, and that'll give us basically more points we can place down anywhere we wish to give us more flexibility when it comes to creating our character or our objects in Anime Studio. So we'll just add it like that. And that will work for right now. We can adjust this later if we wish. So next, let's create an ear for the character. We can come over here and add a new layer. And when we do this, make sure you choose Vector. Name the layer Ear. Then we can come over here to the Shape tool and choose an oval. Then you can come right about here, depending on where you want to place it on your character. Click and drag. And then with our Translate Point tool, we can click that and move all of the points around so we can move the ear accordingly. We'll try right here for right now. And to modify the ear, I will add some points with the Add Point tool. So I'll click the Add Point tool and just click once here and once here. Now I can take the Taper tool, or the Line Width tool as it's called, come over here to this point and click it. Go up here to the top where it says Width and choose to write 0. And do that as well for the top point. And the middle point. So now, if we render this out by going to File, Preview, or Control R, you can see now we have a taper effect take place as the lines intersect the face. So next, let's do the eyes, since we already did the ear. Come over here and make a new layer. Make sure it's Vector. And name it Eyes. Using the Shape tool again, we'll choose the oval. We'll use a fill color of white. And then come over here to your face, and starting right about here, we can draw out ovals. Now, if you hold down the Shift key and click and drag your oval, you'll create a perfect circle. So you can do that if you wish, and I will choose to do that for this particular object. So I'll do that. And now, once you have the oval or circle drawn out, we can of course take the Translate Points tool again and move it around where we wish. Just kind of tweak it here or there. It might be easier to tweak it once we have a second eye. So we could once again use the oval tool and draw out a second eye, or we could copy and paste this eye and just slightly tweak the size if we wish. We can select the oval, which you can tell if it's selected when all the points are red, and come up here to Edit, Copy, or Control C or Command C if you are on a Mac. And then simply paste it by going to Edit, Paste, or Control or Command V. When you paste something, it will be right over the object that you copied, so it won't be apparent right away that it was pasted. But if you take your Translate Points tool and move it, you can see now that we did in fact paste something down. So move it like that. Move this over here. And we can select the second eye if we wish, and take the Scale Points tool, hold in Shift to proportionately resize it, and just shrink it down slightly. Then grab our Add Point tool and just kind of nudge everything to make sure it's all squared away like that. So now that we have some eyes, let's go ahead and draw some pupils. Make a new layer. and name it pupils. Now, once again, using your shape tool, we can come over here to the fill color and choose black. And we can zoom in now if we wish. You can zoom in on your workspace by using the magnify tool on the side here. Or if you have a wheel on your mouse like I do, you can wheel down to adjust the magnification of the stage. And if you have the ability to right click, like if you're not using a Macintosh mouse, you can also right click and choose to move this around by holding down the right button on your mouse, and you can move the stage wherever you wish. So once you have situated yourself to where you can add the pupils, we'll simply hold in Shift, click and drag, and create a pupil like that, and move it down here with the Translate Points tool. And once again, we will copy and paste. So to save time, I will use Control C and then Control V and move it like so. And there we go. We now have our pupils for our character. Next, let's get some hair on the character. We can complete the top portion of the head then finally by applying some eyebrows. So make a new layer. Name it hair, and then we'll choose the add point tool. Now for the hair color, you can choose whatever you wish. For me, I think I'll choose brown. I believe that's what I had on my template character, and I think I'll just go with that option again. So now I'll just zoom in a little bit here. And starting close to the ear, I will draw a sideburn going down like this. And I'll just kind of add some little hairs sticking out from underneath it. And then from there, I'll just click and drag while adding points. Just like that. I can probably even move this down a little bit like that with my Translate Points tool. And if I quickly just jump over here to my template character, it's about the same. He kind of has an arc going on in his hair that I like. So if I jump back here to my character I'm working on right now, and I go and add some points here at the top, I can kind of mimic that arc I once had with my other character. About like that. I'm not going to be able to exactly replicate my template character because it's one of those things where once you do it, sometimes you can't completely replicate the results. But once you have the hair down, we can now add some eyebrows. So make a new vector layer, and we can name this brows or eyebrows, whichever you wish. Come over here to the shape tool for your rectangle. Now you can choose the hair color for your eyebrows, but typically I like to use black eyebrows. It's just something I've done for a while now. So I will make my eyebrows black, but again, you can color those the hair color or a similar variant if you wish. Starting at the top here, I will just click and drag and create a very horizontal looking rectangle. And I'll nudge it back like that with my Translate Points tool. Make it so it's about the width of the eye. That's what I typically do. And then once you do that, you can simply click the top point at the end of the eye here and move it down like this. And you can do the same with the bottom one as well, slightly, to kind of give it a tapered look for the eyebrow. Now, let's click on the eyebrow with our Translate Points tool, and then copy this, and then paste it. And then move the new eyebrow. Now you could make another eyebrow from scratch if you wish, but it comes out very much the same as the first eyebrow, so I just figure I might as well just copy and paste it to save some time. Now in this case, you could remove the taper effect from this side and put it to this side if you wish with the Translate Points tool, or you can simply come up here to the Flip Horizontally tool and click that. And that will, of course, flip the eyebrow so that it is horizontally different than that of the one across from it. And finally, if you want to slant your eyebrows slightly, you could, of course, move the points downward, or you can take the Rotate Points tool and just adjust it like that. Click on our other one and adjust it like that accordingly. There we go. And that is all you really have to do for the eyebrows. So next, let's concentrate on the nose. Making a new layer. I'll want the same skin color that I have on my character, plus the same line width and line color. To easily mimic all this, we can simply take the Eyedropper tool and click anywhere on the face. That will apply the colors and the line width that we have going on there so we can keep everything the same. Now taking the Add Point tool, we're going to come down here. Now my other character, my template character, had a pretty big nose, so I'm going to try to stick with that as I kind of like the way it looked. So starting right between the eyes near the bottom here, we'll click and drag to kind of create the line for the nose, and then we'll keep going and we'll create a few different points here for the nose. Now I kind of have a little bit of a curve going up here. I'm not sure I really like that, so I'll just take my Translate Point tool and just put it more in the middle. The curve serves its purpose more for me when it's in the middle right there. So I think that will work out. Now, the issue we have here is we need to close off the color for this nose. Otherwise, it's going to remain transparent and no one's going to see it. However, if we do this, which I will demonstrate, just take your Add Point tool and continue on from the last point and go up like this. And right here, we'll connect those lines. However, the problem is we have this ugly line going right through the middle here, which is not something we really want. We can easily hide this though, fortunately, by coming over here to the Hide Edge tool, which is right next to the Line Width tool that we use for the ear. We can click that, come in towards one of the middle points here and just click once, and it gets rid of that. And come over here and click, and it gets rid of that. The line itself is still there. It's just hiding it. So if we were to click, we can bring it back into a visible form. But right now, it's serving its purpose by closing off the object by remaining invisible. So that works for us. And finally, we can taper off some lines here, just to give it a little bit more of a stylized look, if we wish, by using that Line Width tool and clicking on the top of the nose here, and applying a thinner line width. And we can do the same. Let me zoom in here really quick. And we can do the same right here. There we go. So now, if we render this out by going to Preview or Control R, we can see how this looks so far. And so far, so good. I might have to adjust the chin and move it down more as we continue on, but we'll see how it goes after I draw the mouth. So let's get started on the mouth. Again, make a new layer, and we'll name it Mouth. Come over here to the Add Point tool, and make sure our line width and color are set, which they shouldn't have changed since the nose. And starting here near the bottom of the nose, and making sure that we're lined up with the line that goes up from the nose. So here, about, we'll click and drag down, and then click and drag this way to create a mouth, like so. And I'll take my Translate Point tool and just nudge this middle one over. Kind of like this. And like that. That looks a little bit better. And then come back here to the Add Point tool. And starting right about here by the lip, we'll click once to create a point. And then we'll click again to create a second point there, just so we don't distort that line too much. And we'll click and drag downward, and then bring it over like this. And then we can take the Paint Bucket tool and choose the Stroke Only option at the top, and then click on the lines to fill them in so that the stroke now is filled in. And there we go. And with my Translate Point tool, I might adjust a little bit more like this. In fact, this might be up a little bit too high, this line coming downward. So I might actually shrink this a little bit and then highlight that entire object with my Select Point tool, and then take the Translate Point tool and move it up like this. So now you have the mouth. And like the nose, we can take the line width tool, select one of the endpoints here, and put that to 0 or a smaller number. The same with this, and this one as well. So now, if we render out, we can see that we have the mouth complete for our character. Now, as I said, I might want to readjust the chin slightly. So what I can do is hide the nose so I can kind of see where my chin ends. And in order to hide a layer, we simply click the eyeballs next to that layer. It's not gone, it's just hidden a little bit. And then I'll take my Translate Points tool, come over here to the head, so we can now edit the head layer. And what I'll do now is take these points and drag them downward a bit. That works a little bit better. We now have the chin matching closer to where the mouth is. And it's still not quite how I'd want it. When I look back here versus here, I think I want to bring my chin a little bit, make it a little bit more straight as far as how the line looks. So I can kind of go like this. I think that works a little bit better. So that'll work out. And again, this is kind of a process where you continually adjust things as you go along. But that will work for right now. And as I said, if we need to adjust later on, we by all means can. Now, speaking of the chin, we can add a line to it if we want to. As you'll notice in my template character, I had a line going on with the chin. So what I can do here is simply just either add the line on the head or make a new layer. And I typically like to make new layers for these types of things. So I'll just name it chin line. Take the add point tool and simply just draw a line going up like this. And then we can take our paint bucket tool and fill the stroke in. Click that top point with our line width tool and just change it to 0 like that. And that will work out. Okay, so for now we are done with the head and we can move on to the neck and the rest of the body. So let's create a new layer, vector, and we'll name it neck. Now, we want the neck to be below the head. So we will take that layer, click and drag, and move it below the head. So we'll be set there. Now, we can draw the neck in two different ways, because if we look at my template, we have a pretty straight looking neck. What we can do is either use a shape tool or we can use the add point tool. I'll go ahead and use the add point tool and click on sharp corners. Now with my fill color and stroke and width set, I can just click and drag down like this, over like this, up and over. And it'll snap into place, and now we have a neck. And of course, this can be adjusted if needed. I might taper it in a little bit like this. But for right now, we can leave it, and we'll see how the rest of the body goes as we move forward. So now, let's create the body by adding a new layer. And of course, we'll name it body. And we want it to be above the neck. So, taking the add point tool, I will start with sharp corners selected. And for the fill color, we can choose any type of shirt color we wish. My other template character had more of a reddish shirt going on. We can choose, of course, any color we want. So I'll kind of go with something similar like I had with that character's, that template character's shirt. I'll choose something kind of like this. So once you have that, we're going to start with the shoulders. So I'll just simply click and drag about like this. And then once we have that, I will deselect the sharp corners option and scroll down here and continue on like this. Now, of course, you can draw any body type you wish. You can make this guy really fat if you wish. You can make him really skinny. I'm going to kind of try to go for more of a buff looking body, I guess. So, oops, we want that to be straight. There we go. Just like that. So now, I can actually take the translate point tool if I wish and adjust this so the shoulders are more centered than they were before here. And there we go. Now let's tackle the arms. We will come back to the body in a little bit here when we alter the collar and create more with the neck there. But for right now, let's tackle the rest of the body by going to Vector and making a new layer. So to begin, I'll name this layer Sleeve 1 because there's going to be 2 sleeves because there are, of course, 2 arms. So once I have that made, I can come over here and take my Add Point tool and zoom in a bit here. And we're going to start making the arm in this area right here. So to begin, I'll go right about here and click and drag and move up and keep adding points like so. And of course, this can be adjusted when we get done here. And there we go. And we can adjust the roundness here if we wish. Just something we might want to do depending on how you want the sleeve to look. Now we want to add another element to the sleeve because we want to make it look like it's rolled up. So what we can do is take the Add Point tool again, and coming outside of the sleeve here, maybe even below it so we can get an idea of the width, I'll come in and draw, zoom in a bit here, something like this. And then move up like this with our Translate Point tool. Maybe like that. Now, if we wish, with the Translate Point tool still selected, we could extend these lines out a bit. They'll probably snap onto the second part of the sleeve, or the first part of the sleeve rather, that you made. But then we can take the taper tool and taper those lines off just to give it a little bit more of a just to give the lines some variety as far as how they look on that sleeve. So okay, we now have created the first part of our arm. The next thing we need to do is create a small portion of the first part of our arm, extending outward from the sleeve. So we'll make a new layer, and we'll name this Arm Part 1. Arm 1 Part 1. There we go. Taking our eyedropper tool, I will select my face of the character to make sure I have all those attributes in place for the line thickness and color and so forth. And then taking the Add Point tool, I will simply draw a small part of this arm like so. And let's also make sure that this arm is beneath the sleeve, just like that, so that it looks like it is. It looks how it should. It looks like how it should, so we don't have it above the sleeve. So now we have that part taken care of, and we can taper this a little bit. The next part is going to involve creating the second part of the arm. So we will make a new layer. This piece will be above the piece we just made. So we'll name this Arm 1 Part 2. And then taking the Add Point tool again, simply come over here and draw out the second part of our arm. And I can correct some of the points here. Probably move this over here. Like that. And like that. And there we go. So now I need to eliminate this line, and I can do that by using, of course, the hide edge tool that I showed you before when we did the nose. I can just go like that. And there we go. And things are a little bit off, so I can take my translate points tool and try to adjust them accordingly, just so everything lines up and we don't have any real issues with how the lines intersect. I think this right here is okay because that's technically supposed to be the elbow. So how it kind of dips in like that should be fine. And that can be corrected too later on when we do add the bones. When we apply the patch layer, that'll correct some of that as well. But for right now, I think it looks fine. It's good because we have kind of like the elbow and the start of the new part of the arm. So that will work out. So now we move on to the hand. Now the hand is by far the hardest thing for me to draw. But let's see how it goes. So let's make a new vector layer. And we will name it hand 1. And we will place it above the part we just created. So we'll grab the add point tool. And we will begin drawing the hand. So starting with the thumb, we'll start right about here, and we will go down about like this. And then okay, obviously I didn't make it wide enough, but I can adjust that with my scale tool. And then the translate point tool, I can just go down like this, and then just adjust accordingly, like so. Now we need to hide this line. So let's just take that hide edge tool and click on the line to hide it. So now the hand seamlessly connects to the arm. And of course, you can always go back and adjust this hand later. I will admit it's not the best hand in the world. Again, I have a hard time drawing hands on the fly like this. I have to sit down and tweak them for quite a while. But I don't want to bore you with all that time. So I will just leave it for how it is right now. And again, you can always download my source files on my website where I have spent much more time crafting a hand, and you can look at how I did it there. So now what we need to do is create the second arm for our character. Now we could redraw everything and do the whole thing all over again, but really all we really need to do is copy these assets and place them on the other side, given that characters, as far as how the structure of their bodies are concerned, are pretty symmetrical. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal if we do that. So let's start with the sleeve, like we did before. And we will duplicate the layer by selecting that sleeve and hitting duplicate. It'll make a new sleeve called sleeve 2. We can then come down here to our translate layer option and move the arm to the other side of the body. What we'll want to do, of course, is put this sleeve behind the body. Just like that. Okay. Now next we want to copy the arm, the first part of the arm. So we'll copy that arm part, duplicating, and we'll move it down here behind the sleeve. And we can rename it as well. So let's double click just so we don't get confused. We'll name it Arm 2 Part 1 and click OK. Now with our translate layer option still selected, we can just move it over to the side of the body. Same with part 2. Duplicate. Move it so it's above the first part of the second arm. Double click to rename. And this will be part 2, arm 2. And we can simply move it over like this and put it right about here. And of course, finally, we have the hand. So we'll duplicate that. And we'll put it above the arm. And we'll move it over like so. Okay. Now, one more thing we could do with this hand is we could add some lines to indicate that we're seeing the palm of the hand and not the outside, because we don't have the same view of the hand as we do here. We're seeing the outside of the hand here, we're seeing the inside here. So what I'll do really quick is just take my add point tool, adjust my line width to around 2, and then I can add some lines like so. And then you can just take the paint bucket tool with the stroke and fill those in. And of course, once you do the lines, you can always taper them off with our line or point width tool, I should say, by just clicking on some points and tapering them off. And so on like that. So next, what we need to do is create the legs. So let's make a new layer beneath the body. And we will name this Leg 1 Part 1. We're simply going to replicate the pattern we did with the arms. We're going to have, instead of 4 parts, though, there will be 3 parts to the legs: the top, bottom, and foot. So let's create the first part by taking the add point tool. I'm going to turn my sharp corners on and change the fill color to something blue, because I'll give him a pair of jeans. And click OK. Now, of course, you can use whatever color you wish for the color of your pants. So now, starting at the top here, I'll click and drag downward to about here. And then we'll create a line like this, and we'll bring it up like this. And I got to make sure that I have my width set to 4. I still had it set to 2 from when I did the hand lines. So with my object still selected, I just changed that to 4, and now it is good to go. So we now have that first part of that leg positioned. We can now make a new layer for the second part. And then, continuing on, we'll just draw the bottom here. Just like that. And I've kind of blown out the bottom a little bit just to make it look like the pants aren't completely tucked up against him. So we can do that. And now I will create the foot. So, new layer, foot 1. And we'll put it below both legs. Go to the Add Point tool. Click the fill color. And we'll change it to something brown. Of course, again, you can choose whatever you wish for that color. And then starting here, let's make sure our sharp corners are turned off. We can come down here. There we go. We now have a foot for that leg. And finally, we can come in here and remove this line. And all we have to do is go to the above part, the part that's above the other parts, which would be leg 2, part 2. And we need to select this hide option and just click that to hide the fact that there is a line there, and do any more adjusting that might needed, just to make sure everything's connected correctly. We can zoom out and we can see what we're doing so far here. And that will work. Now we can duplicate the leg and put it on the second side like we did before. So let's go and duplicate the top part first. So I will just click the duplicate layer for that particular layer, and we will rename it leg 2 part 1. Click OK, and we simply need to make sure it's below this particular leg. So if it intersects, it looks like it's behind. So I'll just move it below the foot, and we'll just nudge it over here. It looks like I'm going to have to end up shrinking my torso some, which I'll do in a second here. Okay, let's take the second part and duplicate that, and we will move it above the first part, and we'll rename this just like that. And we'll move it down like this. And now the same goes for the foot. Move it in like that. So now, as I said, we need to shrink the torso because obviously it's sticking out quite a bit here. And that happens. Again, this is all part of the process. You learn that you have to adjust some things. So what I'll probably do here is first I'll try to shrink the entire body itself without moving any points and see how that works. So I will select the body layer and then come over here to my scale points and just kind of move everything in. And move over when needed. Okay, and now I can come in here with my translate points tool and kind of just nudge everything in accordingly. Like that. There we go. That will work. And of course, then we need to bring in our arms a little bit then as well. And in order to easily do this, we can click on the top sleeve here, hold in Shift, click on the bottom arm part, then click on Translate Layer, and move everything over like that. That just allows us to select everything at once and move it over. And we can now do the same for the second arm. And there we go. Now finally we need to do some adjusting with the collar and the neck. So let's select the body layer and grab our add point tool and come up here, and we can turn the sharp corners on. And starting about here, I will draw a triangle about like that. And now I will take the eyedropper tool, select the neck or the face, whichever, and then take my paint bucket and fill that in. So now we have what appears to be part of the collar. And I can then take my hide edge tool and select that line to hide that edge. And if need be, I can also just bring these 2 points in so everything is connected as far as how the neck meets the shirt. Now I will create the actual collar. So, making a new layer, we'll name it collar. Taking the eyedropper, we'll select the shirt, and then taking the add point tool with the sharp corner still selected, I'll start right about here and come down, go down like this, then up, then over, and then apply the same on this side. Like that. And I can even bring these in a little bit, like so. And they might be a little bit too high, so I can just nudge those down and adjust accordingly. Like so. There we go. And then we can add a line for the shirt. Let's say we want to add buttons or something like that. We can easily do that by taking the add point tool and adding a new layer. And we'll just name this shirt line. And we will put it below the collar. And then from there, we can simply click and drag and move it down about like this. Take the paint bucket tool, select stroke, and fill that in. And then from here, we take the taper tool, select the bottom, and reduce that to 0. So now it looks like we have our character drawn out. Now, if I render this out, you'll notice that there is a line right here. And this has to do with us merging the body and the neck together. It just creates this line sometimes, and we can easily get rid of that by creating a layer called what I would say a patch layer, although that's not technically the term I should use because there is a patch layer that does something else. But we're going to create a layer that's going to hide this, essentially. So let's go above the body where we are right now and make a new layer. And we'll name this neck patch. And again, make sure it is above the body. We can zoom in here. And let's select the shape tool. Turn auto stroke off. And make sure that our skin color is selected for the fill. And from here, we'll simply just create a rectangle like this. Now, essentially what we did was we created a rectangle that's above the body but behind the collar. So now, if we render this out, we can see that that line is gone. We should now be good to go as far as what our character looks like. As you can see, as I zoom out here, we have now completed the character. You'll also notice that the character is too big for the project. The project area is this blue rectangle surrounding everything. We will be adjusting that in the next series of lessons where we start applying the bones to the characters. We'll apply the bones, and then we can very, very easily resize things and move things around. And I'll be showing you how to do that soon. But anyway, until that time, if you wish, please go back and tweak your character, apply some of my lessons, and try some things on your own. Try to design a unique character for your cartoon. I think you'll have more of an attachment to the project if you do that, and it'll just be more fun to see different creations from different people. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.